Versus Sabrelime. Hopefully it will be better than the first one. Sabrelime is up 1-0 after having a lovely spine crawler attack. And, oh my goodness, what's going on here? Oh, that's normal. But it appears that Sabrelime is 6-pulling. You can always tell that they're 6-pulling because they don't build anything at the beginning of the game. It's an important thing to note whenever you're watching replays. If you want to know what a 6-pull looks like, this is it. Yay, that spawning pool's going down in a location where he can actually get to his gas later. Tittily going ahead throwing, oh my goodness, we have a 6-pull versus a 7-pull. Now this is hilarious because this map is actually a really long rush distance. If you see here, you got this wide choke ramp, then you got these little, little gas here, and go all the way down this direction, and you got the tower. And you have to do the whole thing back up here. It's probably the longest rush distance of any 1v1 map. And we are going to see double 6-pull. These Zerglings are going to meet about right here, just because Tittily went for the 7-pull rather than the 6-pull. And actually I like this play, especially considering he knows that Sabrelime is prone to 6-pulling, and he sees that he's 6-pulled now, and of course Sabrelime sees that Tittily is a 6-pulled or 7-pulled or something. So he's going to have a tiny economic advantage, and that just because there's going to be obviously such a low econ game, this might actually work in his favor. The 6-pull isn't as bad in StarCraft 2 as it was in, or 4-pull was what it was in StarCraft 1, just because of queens you can actually kind of pump your economy pretty strong. Wow, this is interesting. He 6-pulled and scouted. Generally you don't want to scout or keep your Zerglings in your base after 6-pulling. There's very little reason to do that. After such a decisive win last game, I'm just kind of baffled as to what's happening here. Maybe he's planning on kind of consolidating the fact that they both are going to have the same number of Zerglings on the map, and he's going to wait to defend rather than attack. That's actually a pretty smart strategy, just because when you see the opponents doing the same thing as you, if you wait to defend, you should, if you're macroing and they're macroing at the same speed, you should always have, a little bit more if you're on the defensive, and that should allow him to kill these units and then have a little bit of an advantage. Of course, you don't want to be fighting in your base where your drones are, prone to being attacked, but see, that's what Saber did here. He got a bigger force, and he waited for those forces, but of course, Tittily doing the smart thing just backs up, and in the meanwhile, he's got a queen up. He could probably get this Overlord here, which stayed around a little too long. Really like to see this queen get out and try and take out this Overlord. I don't know if Taylor's going to respond to it this time. I think he's going to get it. Yep, definitely going to get it. That's actually really big, especially whenever you've got this many drones, and 100 minerals is huge. Also, when you're at 18 of 10, he's got to build 2 Overlords just to be unblocked. So Tittily now has the slight Zergling advantage, especially because this queen is here. Queen, if in a fight, depending on how many Zerglings there are, the more Zerglings, obviously the less effective the queen's going to be, just because it only does 4 damage to ground, well, times 2, so it's actually 8 a hit. I actually never knew that. That's pretty cool. It's a range unit that strikes twice. I don't think there's any other range unit that strikes twice in this game, besides like air units and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of units that strike twice. I'm retarded. Well, I'm just thinking of Vikings, I guess. This is interesting because it's like every time one player attacks, the other one has a little bit more, so then they're just going back and forth. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. Sabrelime's going for a Roach Warren. This is a pretty good play. You can actually, well, this is horrible. He's only got 7 drones, and he just built a gas trying to get roaches. Really needs to work on that economy. Are these drones? They're not drones. So right now this is a super low econ game. There really hasn't been that much aggression. No one has even gotten Speedling speed yet, or Zergling speed yet. So pretty sure Tittily / Osh is ahead with the 8 drone lead right now. Although he is down a few Zerglings, but that really doesn't matter. This is probably bad. You don't really want to have your Zerglings this far out of position, especially, well, this Overlord's going to be able to see these Zerglings coming through, unless they move around. He's going to see them and know to get these back, but if those Zerglings just popped up right here and they were, chilling down here, that's going to end up losing you the game. Baneling nest coming out for Tittily. It's a good transition out of Zerglings, although I'd like to see Zergling speed and then a lair going down. This game is, 7 minutes into it already, and there's no sign of a mid-game in sight. Just one roach out on his measly... Well, actually, he's got a lot of gas. He just doesn't have enough minerals. He mined the gas, and then he pulled guys out. I mean, when you're low on gas, or when you're low on workers, that's not a bad strategy. You wanted to get a couple roaches out, and that might actually help him whenever he's going to deal with these banelings. I've watched Tittily play some really weird games where he's just like, I'm not going to get anything but banelings. So those roaches might actually be really powerful. Sabrelime moving in with a ton of Zerglings, going to try and scout and see if there's an expansion, but there isn't one because this is the lowest econ game I have ever seen. Getting a little bit behind on that energy in the queen, and I guess by a little bit, 105-ish. That's pretty big. I would like to see a lair go down. He's got a ton of... I don't know where they are. He's got enough banelings, and he's got speedlings out now. I really want to see some aggression out of him. When you go for banelings and speedlings this early, you really need to make them do something. Otherwise, your opponent's going to pull ahead. Of course, he's not in this case because he's still so far behind on drones. I just don't know what he's building. He's got low money, but I mean, that's because he doesn't have that many drones. But he doesn't also have that many units, so he's just really not built that much this game. It's good to send that one Zergling. He might be able to catch Tittily, one of Tittily's banelings off guard. Yeah, right there. If you're in a situation as a Zerg versus Zerg, and the opponent has a bunch of banelings, if the opponent's being aggressive with them, there's not much you can do but either get banelings or be really good with your micro. But a good strategy to do is just send Zerglings in one at a time. And just if the banelings aren't on hold position or being controlled properly, you can generally get them to just bite and just attack one at a time. And obviously trading one of your Zerglings for one of their banelings is awesome. So we have a Spire going down now for Tittily. I missed him throwing down that lair, but he's been droning up pretty strong. Actually, he was droning up at the beginning of the game, so he's going to have a much larger lead. But their drone count is actually evened out fairly well. Still not making use of this gas. He has his lair up, but not making any use out of it. Just now getting the speedling upgrade. I like that he's extending this creep. A lot of people think that in Zerg versus Zerg you shouldn't extend the creep, but I just think that that's categorically untrue. Because when you have the creep, you have sight, and so if it's your creep you're fighting on, you have that little advantage. Whereas, if you're fighting on creep, it's going to be the same as fighting off of creep. But at the same time, there's a little advantage for banelings whenever they're on creep. A lot of people don't realize that drones actually don't get a movement speed advantage on creep because that would just be way overpowered. They could mine faster. And so because of that, the Spire going down for him. This is such an identical game minus the baneling S and roaches. Because the banelings move faster on creep, without that baneling upgrade, they're actually faster than drones on creep. Whereas, if you were to baneling against a Terran or a Protoss, because there's no creep in the Terran Protoss base, the banelings would move at the same speed and thus be able to be avoided. But in Zerg versus Zerg, that's just a specific thing that's different. Would really like to see more aggression out of Tittily. I don't really condone making that many aggressive units and then not using them, but apparently we are going to see a mid game of this very passive play. I like this creep tumor getting all the way over to the hatchery. One thing to note is it's kind of important to use your creep tumors sparingly, unless you've got a lot of money you can afford to make extra queens. These creep tumors, you want to not build. I don't know where that one went. Yeah, that's good. Because this hatchery, when it pops out, it's going to spread creep right around here, which means it's going to be connected. And you want to be able to continue the movement of these creep tumors as in the direction of your opponent's base, especially in a Zerg versus a Terran or a Zerg versus Protoss. Zerg versus Zerg, like I said, not as important, but still can be beneficial. That's a lot of speedlings. And here come the banelings with the speed. Oh my goodness. Oh. Now that, ooh, and we have Mutas coming out now. Oh man, this is just gonna fend off this attack, although he's gonna lose a lot of drones just because Mutas cannot deal with Speedlings fast enough. Oh, this could probably be GG here, especially because Tittily has as many Mutas as Saber does. Yep, that's gonna be GG. Tittily calling the GG for his opponent. Not very friendly play, but also taking the high yield expansion first. I don't think that this is a good play in Zerg versus Zerg. You want to just have all your stuff, I think, as close as possible, just because Speedlings are so fast to deal with, and counterattacks and just forces positioning is probably the most important aspect of ZVZ when it comes to, banelings, where your mutas are, what you're doing with your Zerglings. And like, these mutas are out of position. Of course, he's already pretty much lost this game because he has no workers, but he's going to suffer even more attacks before he can even get his mutas in position. And see, the new mutas spawning out are going to get taken out one at a time. Here come Saber's other mutas, but it looks like the blue mutas are going to be able to clean up the white mutas. Trying to do a little bit of micro. It's kind of hard to micro mutas against mutas just because they're so fast. There's some good micro right there. And Saber leaves the game without calling GG. We'll be moving on to the third game, because the games are now tied up 1-1 between Saber and Tittily in just a moment.